and welcome to the Absolute Recap Biology Edition, where we aim to maximize your understanding and minimize your need for memorization. Each episode will recap content, skills, and test-taking tips to help you succeed in May. I'm your host, Melanie Kingett, and your recap starts now. Hi, and welcome to the Absolute Recap Biology Edition. Today's episode will recap Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium. Let's zoom out. We're in Unit 7, Natural Selection, Topic 7.5. Our big idea is evolution.
I have heard of evolution. It's immoral.
It's a fact. And there's no morality in a fact.
Did you ever have one of those math problems that goes, you have 3 shirts, 2 pairs of pants, and 2 pairs of shoes? How many different outfits can you make? Not too challenging to calculate or conceptualize. But when it comes to mating in the natural world, there are populations with hundreds or even millions of organisms. It is difficult, most likely even impossible, to think of all the potential mating combinations.
No, I wish I could, but it's just impossible.
Add in a few generations, and the allele shuffle continues to be more randomized. So, how can we make predictions about the characteristics of a population? Let's zoom in. You may remember from studying genetics that Punnett squares provide an easy way to predict the possible genotypes for an offspring.
I remember everything!
However, it is not practical to perform a Punnett square analysis on all possible combinations of all members of a population to predict what the population might look like in the future. For that, we must turn to math and statistical analysis.
Is that all I need?
What's a population, you ask? A population is a group of organisms of the same species in the same geographic area. It's important that they be in the same location because this means they are more likely to combine gametes and make offspring. And after all, surviving long enough to pass on those genes is the cornerstone of evolution. In order for a population to not be evolving, the group of alleles available within the population must be very stable from generation to generation. There are 5 conditions that must be met for this to be true. 1. The population is very large. 2. Mating is random. 3. Everybody, meaning every genotype, has to have an equal chance of reproduction, which is essentially the opposite of natural selection. 4. Everybody sticks around and nobody enters, as in no immigration or emigration. And 5. No mutations.
It must be a mutation, a freak of nature.
These conditions are rarely met in the natural world, but they do provide a valuable null hypothesis.
Hello, AP.
So we'll just leave this blank for now, and I'll come back and say the subject name here.
Student, I know that you are currently preparing for your AP
The subject name.
exam, but are you taking more than one AP course? Maybe you want to get a jump on courses you plan on taking in the future? Do you think that you're better than me? Is that what you think? Because I'll have you know that along with the Absolute Recap,
The subject name.
edition, we have podcasts and study guides for biology, chemistry, music theory, physics 1, and U.S. government. So if you think you're better than me, if you are currently taking or plan on taking more than one AP course, visit www.TheApsoluteRecap.com. That's www.TheApsoluteRecap.com. And click on the courses link or search The Absolute Recap on any podcasting platform. And now, back to the Absolute Recap,
The subject name.
edition.
Math helps biologists predict the outcome of the population when randomization occurs. The Hardy-Weinberg equation is a tool biologists use not only to make predictions about a population, but also to show whether or not the population is evolving.
You rather look down on my generation.
The equations we need and are found on your AP Biology equation sheet, top left of the first page, right under the laws of probability, were first developed by Gottfried Harold Hardy and Wilhelm Weinberg. Hardy was an English mathematician, whereas Weinberg was a German obstetrician. Unlike most hyphenated scientific breakthroughs, each independently came to the same conclusion. Thus, Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium. The equations are P plus Q equals 1 and p squared plus 2pq plus q squared equals 1. Lowercase p represents the frequency of allele 1 in a population, whereas lowercase q represents the frequency of allele 2. By convention, p is the dominant allele, whereas q is recessive. This means that p squared is the frequency of homozygous dominant, q squared is the frequency of homozygous recessive, and 2pq is the frequency of heterozygous. These frequencies are fractions of a whole population, represented as decimals, which collectively add up to 1. Let's practice. Imagine a mouse population of 100, where 20 represent the homozygous recessive white mouse. What is the frequency of the dominant allele?
Science must have some answer to a problem as important as this.
Well, the 20 white mice represent q squared. So, 20 divided by 100 is 0.2, and the square root of 0.2 is 0.45. Therefore, the frequency of the recessive allele, q, is 0.45. And since p plus q equals 1, then p must equal 0.55. You could then continue your calculations to determine the expected frequency of p squared, homozygous dominant, and 2pq, heterozygous, mice in this population. If the frequency of genotypes in a population matches that predicted by the Hardy-Weinberg equation, then the population is said to be in Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium. If not, then the population is evolving. Time for unit connections. The derivation of the Hardy-Weinberg equation has origins in the Punnett square and genetic probabilities. So, strong connection to Unit 5, heredity. The concept of population dynamics will repeat in Unit 8, ecology. All right, what about the exam? You can use chi-square analysis to compare observed phenotypic ratios to those predicted by the P and Q allele frequencies. It's important that you are careful to distinguish between allele and genotypic frequencies when making predictions about a change in a population and justifying the reasoning for your predictions. To recap, allele frequencies stay constant when a population is in Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium. This occurs with 5 assumptions: no mutations, random mating, no gene flow, big population, and no natural selection. P equals the dominant allele frequency, and Q is the recessive. Coming up next on the Absolute Recap Biology Edition, phylogeny. Today's question of the day is about genetic drift. What type of genetic drift occurs when a small group of individuals gets separated from a large population? For the answer to the question of the day, please follow us on Instagram at TheApsoluteRecap. That's the APsolute recap. Check out our website, TheApsoluteRecap.com, for episode schedules, study guides, virtual tutoring, and to sign up for our virtual classroom. The Absolute Recap is produced by Brad Kingett with music by Zach Caruso. Today's episode was written by me, Melanie Kingett. Thanks for subscribing, and don't forget to rate and review wherever you get podcasts. Time's up. Pencils down. Thank you for listening to the Absolute Recap Biology Edition. AP is a registered trademark of the College Board. Copyright 2020, Absolute Recap LLC, all rights reserved.